Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast, the official podcast of Football Italia. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima Tavali. Today's show, we will react to a thrilling final Serie A weekend of the season. And the big story is that it is a total collapse, a disastrous collapse by Milan, as both Milan and Juventus are out of the Champions League for the first time in the competition's history. Roma and Como clinched the final two Champions League places, meaning Milan and Juventus go into the Europa League. It's, I think we can say, the darkest day in the collective modern history of both those two teams, those two giants. So there's going to be so much to discuss about those two teams, in particular Milan, because the Milan one comes as a shock given what was expected going into the final day of the season, whereas Juventus didn't come as a shock given the position they found themselves in after the loss of Fiorentina. So lots to talk about there. At the bottom, Cremonese are relegated and Lecce saved themselves. We'll talk about that. We'll do our Serie A Awards for the season, team of the season, worst players, best player by position, best coach, all that kind of stuff. We'll talk a little bit about Italy as Silvio Baldini is about to name his Italy squad for the two friendlies at the start of June. It's going to be a very youthful squad. And we'll have our usual Baggio, Premface, and some really terrible Serie Asses of the week, which just sums up the season. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast, receive all of our content that we do without any ads, including our free Monday review show, our weekly Q&A episode, Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much more, then patreon.com/TIFP. Become a subscriber for $3.99 a month. You can watch all of our free episodes and shorter clips on YouTube. You can become a patron on YouTube membership. Go to our YouTube channel on youtube.com/@itarfootpod. And you can also be a paid subscriber on Spotify. So wherever you consume us on, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, YouTube, we'd really appreciate if you give us a follow, subscribe to us, like us, give us a 5-star rating, because by doing that, it really helps us to grow. And also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and also on TikTok. Nima, just before we start, how many countries are we the most listened to podcasts in the country?
Yeah, this is crazy. I have to find that tweet. I tweeted it out because I got an email from this account that sorry, not an account, but from this site that measures traffic for podcasts on Apple Podcasts alone. So this is just for Apple Podcasts, and it's very, very fun because in the sense that 70% of our listeners are based in English-speaking countries, America, UK, Canada, and Australia, and this doesn't count Spotify or people who use other platforms or YouTube, where we actually have most of our, like a majority of our listens. But we're first in the category of football in China. We're first with the number one podcast in the category of sports and football in in the country of Jordan. So two categories we're topping there. We're first in the category of football in Romania, which I thought was funny.
That's sort of Chivu.
Yeah, but we're first in Bahrain for football, first for football in the UAE, first for football in Indonesia, first for football in Finland, first for football in Saudi, and first for football in Hong Kong. And this is by Pod Status.
Amazing.
I'm actually...
Yeah,
really are.
And thanks Serie A, because they can't watch the game, so they have to come and follow us to get there. Otherwise, they don't know anything about the Italian football. So.
No, and also, on YouTube as well, we've been very, very the Monday pod. We've grown a lot in the last few months on YouTube, especially the Monday pod is now one of our most listened episodes. So that's really, really grateful. I'm really, really grateful about that. And we've reached 18,000 on Instagram. We're 10.7 on TikTok, 11.1 on Twitter, soon 11K on YouTube, 41,000 on Facebook. So thank you to everybody to follow us everywhere. We're growing on all platforms. It's been a great season that way for us.
No, yeah. I don't want to sound like FIFA praising ourselves, but I have to say I'm proud that of what we've done all together as a community, especially as as I've said before, the Serie A basically is holding back our podcast, so I'm proud that what we've managed to achieve, and thank you everyone for being on the journey with us throughout the season and looking ahead, of course, to the summer. Unfortunately, no World Cup, and to next season. But let's get into this final day, crazy final day, and let's start off today's show. Okay, right. So I'll just sum up the top four situation first, then we'll get into Milan. Huge shock. So going into the final day, Milan only needed a draw to qualify for the Champions League, and they lost at home to Cagliari 2-1, which meant that with Roma winning 1-0 at Hellas, or 2-0 at Hellas Verona, Como winning 4-1 at Cremonese, it meant that Juventus drew 2-2 in a delayed game at Torino, which was irrelevant by that point. The final table in Serie A is Inter first with 87 points, and of course the champions. Napoli second. They won earlier in the day against Udinese with 76 points. So they're in the Champions League. Roma in third with 73 points in the Champions League. Como fourth with 71 points into the Champions League. Milan fifth with 70 points. They fall down to fifth and they go into the Europa League. And Juventus sixth on 69 points in the Europa League. And Atalanta way down in seventh on 59 points in the Conference League. So that's the final table for the top seven and for the European spots. But the big story, actually, before we talk about Milan, I think we need to talk about this collectively for Milan and Juventus, because they are two of the three giants of Italian football and two of traditionally the giants of European football, two of the biggest clubs in European and world football. And for the first time ever since the new Champions League was created in 1992-93, the first time ever that both Milan and Juventus will not participate in the Champions League for next season. At least one of those two teams had always taken part in the Champions League. And this demonstrates, well, quite a lot of things, but it obviously demonstrates just what a crisis both clubs are in. But I think if we look further away from that as a bigger picture, it represents what Miguel Cristiatello said, which is the total collapse of Italian football, that Milan and Juventus are in the situation they're in, that they neither can qualify for the Champions League, and that they are replaced by Como, who we'll talk about after and praise and look at what they've done. But Como, who are a team that were, in Serie D only 4 or 5 years ago, or Serie C only 4 or 5 years ago, Serie D, I think 7 years ago. Serie only got promoted to Serie A 2 years ago. A team that plays with 0 Italians are now in the Champions League instead of those two teams. Nima.
Well, there's so many, there's levels to this in the sense, and I want to really nuance this, because I know that people, I don't want this discussion to kind of lose focus on what we're saying and what it means. If you look at when Italian football is at its absolute best, both the national team and the league, it is when Inter, Milan, and Juve are strong. Now, that's just a fact. It's always been true historically that the Italian national team does well when all three of them are strong. The Serie A is is competitive when the three of them are strong. And there's a simple reason for that. They're the most popular clubs in Italy and internationally. If anyone knows anything about Italian football and Italian club football, it's either Milan, Juve, or Milan, Juve, or Inter. And it's, this isn't a dig at Roma or Napoli or Como or Atalanta or anything like that. No, we're just stating the fact. It's a very simple and obvious fact. And in a year where Italy once again misses the World Cup for the third time, in a year where the teams were disasters in Europe, in Champions League, as well as the Europa League and the Conference League, it just becomes so in your face. It becomes so impossible to hide and impossible to ignore that we're in the lowest. I'd go so far as to say that this is the lowest point for Italian football generally ever, both in terms of the league's competitiveness towards the rest of Europe, both for the national team, both for as well as for young players, or the lack thereof, which is a huge issue, which we've been talking about on this podcast. One of the few, we're the first to talk about it. Now others are picking up, so that's good. And that is why we're saying that both of us are saying that this is a disastrous year for Italian football. And the Milan and Juve angle is just one part of that. That doesn't take anything away from Como or Roma, who overperformed and did fantastic seasons, and huge congratulations to them, fully deserved. But the fact of the matter remains that Italian football is in dire straits, and that's just a reality.
I agree.
And,
I mean,
and it's like, and just to tie back to when Juventus were dominating for 9 years, and Milan and Inter were in their banter years, and say, oh, it wasn't a disaster then. Yes, it was a disaster then, because Italy missed a couple of World Cups there as well. They were dreadful in the World Cup whenever they played in the World Cup those years. So this has been a long time coming. I would say that it's been 20 years that Italian football has fallen off. You can't ignore this anymore. We can't pretend and say, because this has nothing to do with club tribalism. This has got nothing to do with fandom. The fact of the matter is that none of the Italian clubs are competitive in Europe, barring an Atalanta, who won the Europa League and are a provincial side, and God bless them. But the fact of the matter
and it's
remains,
the Europa League. As amazing as that achievement was, it's the Europa League.
Yes, but the fact, or when Roma won the Conference League, or Fiorentina went to the final of the Conference League and they didn't win a single one. Like, again, it's the Conference League, it's the Europa League. We're not competitive. And if you look at the 20-year period here, that was the last time that both Inter, Milan, and Juve were competitive. That was also the last time that Italy won the World Cup. It was after that, it was the last time that Milan and Inter won the Champions League in the aftermath of that. Since then, it's been darkness. It's been complete darkness. And I don't think we should pretend otherwise. And again, this has nothing to do with what team you support. This has nothing to do with the fact that it's Italian football's fault that Juve or Milan are shit. No, it is not Italian football's fault that Milan and Juve are shit. It's Milan and Juve's fault that they are shit. The buck stops with each club. Italian football has no obligation to give sweets to Inter, Milan, and Juve for them to do well. No, they have to run their clubs properly, and they haven't. It's just that simple.
I think Italian culture permeates all this club. Well, most clubs, I would say, the vast majority of clubs, including Juventus and Milan, even if Americans have taken over one of those two teams, and that does also play a role in those teams falling. But absolutely, you're right in that sense. But I think that I've got nothing to add. You've said everything. The only thing I would say is this is why we've been calling it for 5 years, that there needs to be mass reforms and revolution in Italian football, and that they need to basically gut all the leaders and institutions in Italian football. And that's why I said it again after Italy failed to qualify for the World Cup, where I told everyone to fuck off. And who have fucked off since that day? Who's fucked off from Italian football? One man. Well, he hasn't fucked off yet. He's going to fuck off in about a month. Gravina. That's it. No one else has fucked off. Last week, De Siervo, the CEO of the Serie A, says that the Coppa Italia final is of the same level as the Champions League final. So this is what we're saying. Like we're
I
here.
have a headache. Every time
here.
you say that, it gives me a migraine.
Yeah. Well, this is why. This is why.
That quote gives me a migraine. It literally triggers a headache in my head whenever I hear that quote.
Yeah, well, it gives my broken back. It makes it even more broken. But yeah, listen, listen. This is why This is why all of these figures need to be. And you know what? There was actually a really good speech done by Casper Ruud. I'm not sure if you saw it. We put it on our we put it on our Insta channel, and it went viral. Actually, he lost to Yannick Sinner, and he actually said, he goes, look, the Italian Tennis Federation are doing an amazing job. You know, you've got the best, you know, you've got about 7 or 8 incredible tennis players, all at the top of the European or world tennis, you know, including probably the best or the joint best player in the world at the moment in Yannick Sinner. You know, we're doing an incredible job. But then he did a little bit of banter, he did a little bit of a dig at the football. He goes, well, you know, unlike the football team, basically, who can't even beat Norway, you know, because he's Norwegian.
And he's right. And he's
absolutely right. And Maldini, I think, said something similar. In fact, Maldini said exactly what we've said, and me in particular, when they said that in tennis, the people that are running tennis, they're kind of like, they're new people. They have new ideas. They're not like the old Italian system, which is the people that it's run by these you know, the people that we don't have to go over old ground all over again. But this is why what we're seeing here from Milan and Juventus, which represents the whole crisis of Italian football, this isn't going to change. This year it's Juventus and Milan. Inter are going to continue to be great while they've got someone like Marotta in charge, who is just a genius. Whatever people want to say about other stuff, he's a genius, right? And what he's done with Juventus and Inter in overperforming, he's literally, that's thanks to him. That's not thanks to anybody else. As soon as Marotta gets too old and leaves Inter, it might be Juventus and Milan these last 4 or 5 years. Inter will join that at some point as well, because the whole structure of Italian football is completely messed up. So, you know, we can't get away from that. And I agree. Qualitatively, this is the worst season ever for Italian football. Third straight World Cup missed in a row. The performances of our clubs in Europe is abysmal. You've got Inter.
No young players.
Inter won the Scudetto by a mile. They destroyed the Serie A. An Inter team that went out to Bodo Glimt and got dominated by a Norwegian team, Bodo Glimt, in the Champions League.
And lost to Liverpool, Atletico Madrid, Arsenal. I mean, like, it's just, you know, we can't pretend. Like, it's been a good season for Inter domestically, but overall, if you zoom out of the club tribalism for 2 seconds, because we, you know, what we do here is we talk about the bird's eye view, and then we go into the details. We're talking about the bird's eye view here, the overview, and it has been a disastrous year for Italian football. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you look at where do all the Italian teenagers play? Bundesliga, the few that play.
And also, with all respect to Roma, we'll come to Roma in a bit. Like, they've done an amazing job. Gasperini's done an amazing job, but I'm sorry, they're not a good team, and they're in the Champions League. I'm sorry, they're not a good team. They're a bad team at that level. You know, that's going to upset a lot of Roma fans, and we'll talk about Roma. And they've done an incredible job, and I'm not saying they don't deserve to be in the Champions League.
Fully deserved. You
know, but I'm
fully
saying
deserved.
They are a bad. They're not a good team. They really are not a good team. And also, I was watching, you know, I was watching the Milan game against Cagliari. I'm sorry. That was honestly the level of that football game. It was like, I mean, I want to say Sunday League, but it wasn't even Sunday League, because at least in Sunday League, there's players run and there's intensity. It was like watching 70-year-old veterans walk in football. That's what it was like watching. The quality was that bad. And the level, the speed of the game, it was so. So if that Milan team,
there was nothing.
That Milan team gets to the Champions League as well. You know, it didn't. I'm sorry. Yeah, and they would have done. It would have been Roma and Milan if they'd have got that. If they'd have got a draw, they'd have got an equalizer. So, you know, this is the level we're at, and we need to accept that. But
we need to be honest about it. We need to be honest about that.
Yeah, but as I said, I'll say it again. That we can sit here and moan until, you know, there's a complete revolution of all the people that are running Italian football, including, you know, not just Gravina, because that's the only person that's going to go, as I predicted. The president will go, some other person who's part of the system will come in, and I include Malago in that. and nothing changes. All the other heads will stay. The head of Serie A will stay. The head of the
we'll see. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure. I think Malaga is very good at using his diplomatic and his contacts and the way he's got good relations with everyone that he needs to have good relations with. So I don't want to say too much about that just yet, but I think he's the right person at the right time.
But that brings us on nicely. That brings us on nicely to Milan, and obviously, look, there's a wider issue here, but because it kind of leads on nicely from what we're discussing about the problems of Italian football, I'm going to start with Allegri himself, and then we can talk about Milan as a whole, right? Because Allegri, as a microcosm, represents everything that is wrong with Italian football and why we are in the situation as an Italian football. Obviously, there's more reasons. There's a lot of reasons why Milan and Juventus before them, when Allegri was there, are in the banter eras that they're in. Allegri, my God, he needs to retire. Can we all now just end the debate about Allegri having a place in football at a top team? His performance with Milan in this second half of the season and in this running, this collapse by Milan at the end of the season, and that pathetic performance against Cagliari on the final day of the season, a game they only needed to draw against a team that had nothing to play for, had booked their safety the week before, and the way that they played, the lack of desire, the lack of ideas, the lack of grinta, the deservedly lose that game, and the way that this Milan team, the Milan attack, the way that Allegri has destroyed this Milan attack, two of the best attackers in the league in Leao and Pulisic, it's embarrassing. So listen, let's just end it now once and for all. Allegri, he has no place in football anymore. Not at the top.
I've heard for 10 years.
I just want to read out a quote from one of our patrons, Chris Riordan, because I think he sums up the situation with Allegri and Milan. He goes, many people at Milan have made mistakes. No one gets a free pass here. But failure to beat Cremonese, Pisa, Parma, Sassuolo and Cagliari at home this season, Milan don't deserve Champions League football. That's on Allegri. In a microcosm, he's everything that's wrong with Italian football. And this, number one, this is on Allegri to not be able to see out the season, at least get them in the Champions League, because that was embarrassing.
Look, Allegri failed this season. There is no discussion about that. All of Milan failed. There's nobody who gets a pass, and that includes Allegri. But I think this ridiculous notion that he's finished and he needs to retire. I've heard for 10 years now that Mourinho's finished and he needs to retire. Well, he's back at Real Madrid. So I'm sorry.
Let's see how he does.
Yeah, but Real Madrid.
Allegri was back.
Yeah, but Real Madrid. Yeah, but Real Madrid. It's Real Madrid with quite a few world-class players. It's Milan and Juve, with all due respect, don't really have that many, if any. So and it's Real Madrid. Real Madrid are. We're not talking about.
Let's see how he does. The proof is in the pudding.
The proof is absolutely
not with the pudding being on the table.
No, absolutely. But he's not finished because he's at Real Madrid. If he were finished, he wouldn't be appointed. And so I think the notion that he's finished,
or Florentino Perez is lost his mind, maybe. But yeah.
Or maybe he knows what he's doing. Maybe he's earned the right for us to say that okay, this was not perhaps the most expected choice. Let's see how it goes. My point is
the proof is on the pitch. The proof is on the pitch with Mourinho in the last 10 years and with Allegri in the last 7 years. That's the point.
Well, I disagree with the 7 years because I think the quality of the players that you have is also very important, and also the structure of the club and so on and so forth. There's a reason why Allegri was able to do what he did when Marotta was there. He was able to do what he did when Berlusconi was there, but he wasn't able to perform miracles afterwards. No, because Juventus and Milan are dumpster fires, as we've spoken about, on and off the pitch. Of course, Allegri is to blame. He's the coach. It's unacceptable. The performance we saw against Cagliari is I think it's the worst Allegri game I've ever seen. It was. You talk about speed. There was nothing there. There was no structure, no organization, nothing. Defensively, attack, Nothing. It was 11 individuals walking around, stressed out of their brains, completely scared, couldn't string 2 passes together in a must-win game to redeem and save the season where they had everything in their hands. It's not like they had pressure to what was going on the other side. No, they had it in their own hands. And it's a Cagliari who had nothing to play for. And to lose 2-1, conceding the goals they did, no, it's unacceptable. And that is completely on Allegri. And I think he will go. I think there's no discussion that he will leave. I don't see how he can continue. I don't see how any of them can continue. I don't see how Moncada, Furlani, Zlatan, I don't see how any of them can continue. Tare, like none of them.
Well, that's the question. No, it's gonna be one hell of a week for Milan this week. It's going to be all kinds of going. It's going to be. I mean, even before the game, and yes, listen, like at Juventus, the situation off the pitch, the way the club is run, that's made it difficult for Allegri. Even before the game, the protest before the game doesn't help. You want the fans on your side. The toxic atmosphere, which was also at Juventus when Allegri, that doesn't help. Of course it doesn't. I've seen that at Man United for years as well. It really does make a difference. I'm not, many things are true at the same time. Exactly. But I'm sorry to not even get in the Champions League in a
no, it's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable. There's no European football. The team that you can't tell me that Milan have weaker teams than the weaker squads than Roma and Como. You can't. No. It's just it's unacceptable. But yeah, I agree. I think the question about Allegri is he's on a big salary, and he's got a long contract. And from what we're hearing, Skira.
Well, he doesn't. He's a fighter. He's not going to want to give up.
Skira says he's not going to resign. So that means he's going to have a payout. He's going to have a payout. That's a lot of money for Milan. They're already going to lose, 70 to 100 million from not being in the Champions League. So then and
that's something I wanted to talk about. That's what I wanted to talk about as well. The financial, Milan are in a better place financially than Juve, but this is a disaster for Milan financially as well. I wonder how many players they're going to have to sell to balance this, and which big players are going to have to they're going to have to raise cash to balance this. That's how I interpret everything I've read about their finances from most Calcio Finance and so on. It's a bad situation. It's a really, really bad situation. It's not as bad as Juventus, but this is bad for Milan. This is really bad for Milan. And you say you need to get rid of Allegri, and I think he will go. And I don't think he wants to resign, but I think if it becomes a situation where the club says, I want to stay and fight, and they have to buy him out, that also presents issues going to who's going to be the next coach. Because in my opinion, what Milan need right now is Antonio Conte. They need someone who immediately gets them back into the top 4, period, before they can look forward. And Conte has done this his entire career. He just literally did it at Napoli, where he stabilized them at the top. It wasn't a great season. It wasn't a fantastic season, but they won a Scudetto. They won a Supercoppa. They finished 1st and 2nd. That's stability at the top. So,
I mean, there isn't a better person to come in. There's no doubt about that, to a club that have fallen to the depths that they have fallen, to hire Antonio Conte. He's shown that time and again. This is where he thrives. The way I look at it is that Juventus were in negotiations with hiring Conte this time last year, after Juventus were in a crisis. Although remember, they actually were in the Champions League last year, unlike this year. And in the end, Conte himself decided not to, and decided to stay at Napoli. Now, why did he make that decision? One, because he obviously, De Laurentiis made him some promises in how much money he would get in the transfer market, strengthening the team, the squad, the control. That's obviously played a part. But also, the biggest reason he rejected, and he was right to do so, is he looked at the Juventus club. He looked what a complete mess and incompetent people that are running that club are. Actually, at the time, Juventus were in a similar position that Milan are in now, in that they didn't even have any of their positions filled. We're assuming the people in the top positions, decision-making positions at Milan are going to go. Tare's gone. I mean, not officially, but he's gone. We know he's gone. Then, Zlatan, we don't know. Moncada's probably going to go. Furlani, very much at doubt. So like all of those positions. So Antonio Conte, I'm telling you, if he's using the same theory that he used a year ago, the same logic as he is not going to Milan. He's not going to take over a club that has incompetent people running the club or no people at all. He's not going to take that job. So I can't see Conte accepting that job unless he gets some real guarantees of the people coming in. And do you know what I mean? Because I think
Jerry Cardinale has to get on his hands and knees and beg Conte. He has to literally go. He has no leverage here. He has to go down on his hands and knees and beg Conte to come, if Conte is to come, and just say, listen, it's a 3-year project. The things that Conte likes, he likes determinate projects, 3 year, 2 years, however many years. Give him that. Be honest with him about the finances. Tell him that the people we're going to bring in is this person and that person. Tell him that Zlatan does not go into the dressing room and tell them not to listen to the coach and shit like that, because Conte will kill Zlatan if that happens. Like there will be murder at Milanello. Like there will literally be physical altercations if that happens. So this is what he needs to do. Like he needs to get, Tony D'Amico, Vincenzo Italiano, fine. But then you have to sell this as an owner who is so hated by the fan base. Whatever anger Milan fans have at Moncada, Furlani, Zlatan, Allegri, nothing compared to what they feel against Redbird and Cardinale. So there's no time here for him to rebuild 3 years. No. He needs to get results now. And he needs to get on his hands and knees and beg Antonio Conte and present him with a project that Conte is willing to accept, and within reasonable grounds, and say, look, I can't guarantee you this amount of money, but I can guarantee you this. I can guarantee you this guy. Bring in maybe, I don't know what Petracchi's doing. Petracchi's Conte's best friend. They've always spoken about working together. Do you know what I mean? You need to do something like that.
Milan are in a mess when making these decisions as well. I actually think we'll come on to Juventus in just a minute, but I think Juventus are in a better position than Milan.
Exactly.
When you look at forget about the people running the club, because they're not much better at Juventus. But the players themselves, I think at least at Juventus, obviously depending on if they have to sacrifice any players, wouldn't surprise me if there's another capital injection, because there usually is, which might offset some of that. But if you look at the players, I feel like Juventus have got more of a workable core. Even if some of those players might not be da Juve, some of them fit together into like a project, and they have a manager who's already, I think, shown the start of building something there with that core. When I look at Milan, I think, what core of players do you build around? Because I look also at the ages. I look at the ages of the players. Now, I think what's Milan's strong point personnel-wise? I'd probably say the centre of midfield with Rabiot and Modric. Well, Modric is 40. We don't even know if he's going to stay now. I think he would have definitely stayed if they're in the Champions League. Now they're not in the Champions League. Does he stay for another year? Is this something that he fancies with all the directors going, a new manager, another year zero for a 41-year-old? Is that something that you want to do at that age? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. So we don't even know if he stays, but assuming he does stay, he's 41. You're not getting many years out of him. Rabiot's going to be 31. I think they're your guarantees. Then you've got Rafael Leao and Pulisic, who we can assume can get back towards their best. With Allegri, they've been destroyed under Allegri this year. There's no doubt about that. You can look at their numbers and their performances. But maybe with a new manager, maybe you can build around them. Maybe. But, like you said, if they need to sacrifice someone, do they sacrifice Leao? And then I look at the defence and I think, well, for the first 2/3 of the season, I think if I can praise Allegri for anything, I think he overperformed in terms of making that defence solid with the players, the quality of those defence players as individuals. I don't think those defenders are particularly good defenders either. one-on-one individually.
No, they're awful.
Do you know what I mean? So I look at the team and I think, well, okay, the wing back, Salamakers is a good player. I think Bartazaghi is young. Maybe you can build from that. Maybe, but I don't see much of a cause. So I think that Milan are not in a good position for.
I'm glad you said that, because that's kind of my read. My situation, the way I view it is exactly like that as well, in the sense that I'd rather be in Juventus's shoes in this situation than in Milan's shoes, even if Milan finished above Juve. It's by a point. I look at Juve and I see a coach and an identity of play. I see something to build from there. I don't really see that at this Milan. It's a club in complete disarray. It's a club in absolute shambles. This is rock bottom for them, because the manner if you look also at the amount of money they've spent on the market and the amount of shit they've brought in that doesn't work with with the coach. I mean, it's just not.
I'll tell you where Milan made a big mistake. And this isn't just related to Allegri in particular as an individual. It's to do with the philosophy of the club. You know, when Cardinale came in, and before him, obviously, with Elliott, they had this vision of, right, this is what Milan going to be. They're not going to be the Milan of Berlusconi, of big spending, buying established players, you know, big wages. We're going to go the different route, which unfortunately is the route that most Italian clubs have to go now, because financially we don't have the money. And, you know, Como have shown how you can be successful. Even if they've spent money, they've got lower salaries, and it's a model of buying younger players, developing players, unearthing them, good scouting, good development, playing a certain type of football, and then selling them players on for a big profit and then bringing in the new one. Unfortunately, that is kind of where we are in the food chain now with Italian football. And Milan, rightly or wrongly, they decided, right, this is the philosophy we're going to go. Okay, it hasn't been particularly successful. They managed to win one Scudetto, but then it started to fall away. They'd get to a Champions League semi-final. But they let go of Maldini, but they were still, that was their vision. That was their philosophy. Then they panicked after last year. When they had that bad season last year, they panicked and they thought, right, we're going to throw it all out. We're going to bring in Allegri. We're going to bring in someone who's the complete opposite of what their project is supposed to be about. They brought him in. They brought in Tade, who I would say also was not the complete opposite, but not really part of that idea and philosophy either. And they completely ripped it up. And now where are they now? Now that that has failed, they're in a terrible position, because where are they at? Are they in the previous position? Now, this has got nothing to do with Allegri and Tade. I'm just saying that what is their identity now? What is their identity?
The knee-jerk reaction. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, this kind of.
So now what do? Do they persist with the Allegri way, with or without him, or do they just go back to their old way? In which case, who comes in? Who are the people running the club? It's a mess. It strikes me of an owner that doesn't really know what he's doing, and he has no clue when it comes to the football. Shit at a wall. He started throwing shit
at
a wall.
But he's been doing that. Like when it comes to the football side of things, that is the hallmark of Redbird. Again, off the pitch, I think they've done great things. I think they've done great things in terms of modernizing the club with new ideas and financial, the way that he's built them financially. But when the results, all those good things, they can become null and void when you fail like this and you fall flat on your face time and time again on the pitch. And that's
can we now say definitively that letting go of Paolo Maldini was the worst decision Milan made in the last 10 years?
It was. Massara and Maldini leaving was a disaster. Gazidis leaving was a disaster. Like all of the people who rebuilt and reestablished Milan. Let's remember, they won a Scudetto. They were in the Champions League semi-final. That project was there. Since then, they've not even been close. And we can, I'm not, this notion that Maldini is some sort of a, messiah. No, but he was competent. He was the right man at the right place at the right time. And they built something that was good. And since Redbird took over, they've destroyed it, completely destroyed it. And I don't think we can't pretend otherwise, to be honest. It's,
the results and the
results speak for themselves.
But also the whole toxicity of the environment. Like
No, it's not.
With
Look,
Maldini, that wasn't the case. The
yeah, but
dressing
you
room as
also,
well.
but I'm sorry, but you have to be an idiot to pick a fight with Paolo Maldini if you're the owner of Milan. I'm sorry, but it's like if Oak Tree were to start picking fights with Javier Zanetti. He's in no way has the same importance as Maldini did as the sporting CEO, if you will. But I'm talking as a figurehead, as a symbol. Jerry Cardinale decides to pick a fight with Paolo Maldini. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, because he wasn't good for the unity of the club,
Yeah.
which is the biggest irony of all.
Do you have unity now? I mean,
Yeah.
it's insane.
No, it's a civil war, isn't it? It's a complete civil war. Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, listen. Let's move on to Juventus. I mean, this doesn't come as much of a shock, and we spoke about this in such depth this time last week that I don't think we need to go and speak as long as we just have at Milan. So I'll just say, everybody watching, go back to the show last week where we really kind of, me in particular, picked apart everything that's wrong at that club and why. But at the end of the day, here we are. Juventus have finished 6th and out of the Champions League, it's a total disaster of a season again. Now, I want to preface it, like I said last week, right? And this is the first time I've ever done this during this banter era at Juventus. I've always hammered them at the end of the season when they've had a bad season, always, right? This is the first time that I do believe, honestly, right? This doesn't take away any of the failures of this season. I do honestly believe they've been unlucky. I believe, based on their performance, certainly since Spalletti's come, I do believe they deserve to be in the Champions League based on results, not results, because results are what they are, based on performances. I believe they deserve.
I agree. I agree. I'm on the same line there. I think Spalletti has shown what a fantastic coach he is, how good he is. The fact that he's got this team playing that kind of football, believing in themselves again, rebuilding credibility in the group that he has, and that he's given them credibility in themselves, in how they behave on the pitch. I think it's a little bit of bad luck, but also there's also this notion. There's also this thing where he should have been. I mean, they should have taken him sooner. I mean, they should have taken him sooner. When he resigned last June, they should have taken him then and not continued with Tudor.
Yeah, maybe. And maybe if they had him for the
I think there's
season.
no doubt. A full Spalletti preseason, a full season with Spalletti, they finished comfortably in the Champions League. I have no doubt.
Yeah, maybe they do. I think that at the end of the day, I think that Juventus deserve to be in the top 4 based on how they played under Spalletti, and they've missed out, as I said last week, because of these are facts. So that it's still true that you don't, if you have a terrible goalkeeper and a terrible number 9 for most of the season, you can't just you also, some will say, well, you can't say Juventus deserve to be in the Champions League if they have a terrible number 9 and a terrible goalkeeper, because that affects the quality of their team, and you're probably right to an extent, but they had a terrible goalkeeper and a terrible number 9 who cost them so many points this season, so many. The fact that Di Gregorio has let in the first shot in a game 16 times this season speaks for itself. The number of points lost based on just not having a goalkeeper and having a terrible number 9 for the majority of the season. Vlahovic came back; he scored a few goals at the end of the season. But if they had Vlahovic for the whole season, not that I think he's a particularly amazing striker from what he's shown at Juventus, but I'm sure they would have got more points with Vlahovic than they would have done with some of the others. And they have been unlucky with refereeing decisions. They've had some really bad refereeing decisions that have cost them points. And even yesterday, it was too late. Even yesterday, they were, I'm not saying they were necessarily wrong decisions, but they were unlucky with some of the calls in the other games that could have gone the other way, with the Roma penalty, with the penalty that Cremonese got. I'm not saying that would have changed anything, but they've been unlucky with ref calls. I just think it's just been a bit of a perfect storm this season in that respect. However, that doesn't change the bigger picture, which is what people always need to look at if we're going to change around the fortunes of not just Juventus and Milan, but Italian football as a whole. You need to look at the macro and not just the micro. You need to look at the bigger picture, because that is what changes things in terms of going forward. You know, you can always have an unlucky season. I think Spalletti said it himself. He says, look, just because we've got 2 points more or 2 points less, or got in the Champions League or got in the Champions League, what is going to decide ultimately whether Juventus become the force they are is by making the right decisions. And this is where Juventus are still a complete mess, and that is the people that run the club in these positions. You know, and I've said it before. John Elkann is not competent. He's not up to the job. Damien Comolli, does he stay? It looks like from the quotes at the end of the game that he might get a reprieve. But at the end of the day, if Damien Comolli does his job and doesn't waste the money he did on Openda or on David, and they have a proper number 9, Juventus don't score. If he'd have done his job, you know, and they'd have brought in a better goalkeeper, you know, they wouldn't have let in on the goal. So, you know, these kind of structural decisions throughout the club, which I speak about last week, I don't want to go over them again, but there's too many people at Juventus that are not up to it in the key positions, and the synergy as a club, that needs to change.
No, I agree with that. All of that is, you know, we discussed it to death, so there's not much to add to that. But I think that I'd rather be Juventus in this situation than Milan. And I say that because I think they have their manager right. They have a structure right. They know how they want to play. They have an identity on the pitch. Now they just need to survive financially and try to fix and get the players that Spalletti needs to fix to get into top 4. That's the only, you know, they don't need to look at winning the Scudetto. That's not what Juventus and Milan need to look at. They need to get back into the top 4. They both need to get back into top 4. They need to look at the shortest possible way to get to the top 4 without breaking any rules. And we don't need any bloody scandals. But please, follow the parameters, bite the bullet, go through the financial steel bath, as we say in Swedish, when you have to make ends meet after overspending, and fix and try to get on the pitch, sporting wise, as soon as possible back into the top 4. That's the most important thing. That's the only thing that matters. And I think Juventus are in a better position to do that with Spalletti and with the players they've got. And you can tell that also from the players, that the players like Spalletti. They like the football that he plays. They like the calm that he's created, the group that he's created. So there is something there, and I think the most insane thing they could do now is to sack Spalletti and start.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I think he's been confirmed, and I think he wants to stay, and I think he will. It's just a question now of they need to sort out these. I mean, we have to see how much money they have available. The reports are that Juventus. I mean, obviously, look, it's a huge financial disaster not qualifying for the Champions League for both Milan and for Juventus. But
for Juventus, it's worse.
But for Juventus, one thing they have done is they have managed to cut the wage bill and some of the running costs by quite a big amount. Over
they
the last
still need to do
2
some
years.
more.
So they're in a better position now than they would have been, like say the last time they didn't qualify for the Champions League, although that wasn't for on the pitch, but they didn't qualify. They weren't in the Champions League. Now financially, the ramifications were much bigger then. Also coming after COVID as well. Whereas now they're more able to absorb that. They're still going to need another capital increase, but the question will be kind of, do they sacrifice anyone? We don't know. More will become clear. But based on the squad they have available or the players they have available now, I think it's pretty obvious the areas that they need to sort. They need a new goalkeeper, a top goalkeeper. That's obvious. Spalletti apparently wants a left back. He doesn't trust Cambiasso defensively. So a new left back. I would say they probably need a right-sided one as well. And then they need a centre midfielder. And you know, I mean, listen, they're not going to be able to build the entire team in one market, but they need to sort out the number 9. Now, I think there's probably more chance of Vlahovic staying now that they're out of the Champions League, because you know, who's going to come to them that's top, you know, out of the Champions League.
And which Champions League club wants Dusan Vlahovic? So I think it's one of those marriages of convenience. For both of them.
Yeah, if they can work. I think he's asking for 8 million a year. Juventus have offered 6. So yeah, we'll see. We'll know more in the next week on that. Yeah, I mean, it's a disaster of a season for Juventus. No other way of describing it in terms of the final result. But let's move on to Roma. I mean, again, look, I know that people might be a little bit upset with what I said. What Roma have achieved is amazing. It's a massive overachievement. There's no question about it. You look at that team, you look at the squad, the depth of the squad, especially at centre midfield, or even at centre, like all over, the depth, the lack of depth in that squad. They went the first half of the season basically without a striker as well. I think Gasperini's done an amazing job. Also, it hasn't been as smooth off the pitch either. There's been a lot of problems with Gasperini fighting with Gasperini fighting with Ranieri leaving before the end of the season. And to get the Champions League, they've done it incredibly well.
Massive congratulations to Roma. Massive congratulations. I mean, I remember 2 years ago, the Friedkin project was essentially in the dumps. It was a dumpster fire, exactly like Milan and Juve are now. And there was so much there was no clarity, there was no coherence. But they managed to kind of weather the storm since Ranieri came in, calmed everyone down. They got the coaching appointment right in Gasperini. And Gasperini is getting the best out of these players. Many players that he's had before, like Cristante, like Mancini, players that perhaps a lot of people don't rate, but they have worked under Gasperini because he's made them work before. He knows how to get it to work. And you got to give credit where credit is due. Gasperini has done an absolutely amazing job. He's overperformed. For them to finish third is a huge overperformance.
And it's also put to bed any people that question, well, is it just the Atalanta system that made Gasperini what it is? He's shown that, without the incredibly well-run club that Atalanta is behind him, he's that's him. This is down to him more than anyone else.
Well, I mean, he did it with Genoa as well prior to doing that.
But at this level, though, I mean, he's done amazing. And, I think that we do, although also have to look, and this is, again, another message sent to Milan and Juventus. They brought in Daniele Malen in mid-season, and he's been sensational. He's been the best player in Serie A, without doubt, since he joined in the second half of the season. There's been no better player than Malen in Serie A in the second half of the season. He's been
the most important player for his club, I'd say, since January, because of the fact that the way that he came in and the role that he filled and how quickly he hit the ground running and interpreting that role and gave Roma the bite to match their bark. And that's something that Roma was lacking. So it just goes to show that, if you back Gasperini, he can actually do things. And
Gasperini went to war to get that striker in January.
Yeah, he did, and he was right too. And now Dybala's going to leave, so a big wage is going to.
No, Dybala's staying.
He's staying now.
I missed that.
Okay.
Yeah, they reckon he'll sign his contract. Yeah, he's staying. He's agreed a contract for much, much less, like $2.5 million. And Dybala turned up when it mattered at the end of the season as well. Unfortunately,
that's great news.
Dybala and Malen together have been amazing. The very few times they play there. It's good to see Dybala there. I was actually looking at Dybala's numbers yesterday for the little he's played. His numbers are still insane. Key passes, in terms of actually making things happen, even in a disastrous season for him. If he's fit and available, even if it's just as a sub, he will make the difference. And he made the difference yesterday. He did make the difference. Malen missed that penalty. Dybala's genius to position himself on the right and play it across the box. Then he'd give the assist. This is where, champions, even someone past his best and old, like Dybala, this is when you want your players to turn up and make the difference. And Dybala and Malen, when it was on the line, they turned up for Roma at the end of the season. Whereas players even like if you take Juventus, Yildiz disappeared in the last month of the season or so. Milan, where were Milan's champions? Okay, we can look at the coach maybe, but where was Rafael Leao when Milan needed him? At the end of the season, where was some of the others? Do you know what I mean? So Malen and Dybala, when it push come to shove right in the final stages, they turned up. Roma held their nerve.
Yeah, and he got another assist for Stefan El Shaarawy, who looks to be leaving. It was really nice scenes their last home game. No, it's looking good for Roma. For them now, it's about getting the right sporting director appointment, someone who can work with Gasperini and getting him the players that he wants. Obviously, because of the ridiculous settlement agreement that Roma are in, they're going to have to probably make some sacrifices, which I think is stupid. The way that Roma are being
But it will help hell of a lot, though. Being in the Champions League.
Oh my God, yes,
It'll make a huge difference to them.
No, I'm really happy for Roma. I'm really happy.
If Tony D'Amico comes in, then Roma also their modus operandi changes in the sense that will be more aligned with the Gasperini, of course, which makes Roma an interesting club to follow, because they'll we'll see what kind of players will they unearth and maximize, which is what Gasperini's always done. He's maximized the talent of players, and that's what that's what you want from your manager as well. Gasperini's always done that, and again, bringing it back to Allegri. Allegri hasn't done that. He hasn't maximized the ability of his players and developed them. So yeah, I have to say well done. But also, we're talking about maximizing players and developing Como. It's an incredible achievement by Como. It really is. Putting aside all the debate and the question marks, and which people rightly raise about the fact that there's not a single Italian playing for Como. How many minutes played by Italians at Como this season? 1 minute, or did it go up to 20? I think by the end, I can't remember. But it's outstanding work by Cesc Fabregas, by the entire club. To take the club, we just have to remember this. They've taken the club that was in the Liga Pro 4 or 5 years ago. They were in Serie D 7 years ago. 2 years ago, they were in the Serie B. I mean, to get into the Champions League and play in the way they've done as well. It's
an outstanding achievement, and it's their ability to find the right players, the young players, get them into the system and get them up and running, and to work in that system and consistently deliver, and Fabregas to get inside the players' heads and kind of control and get all these young egos to work in the same. There is an inexperience there, both for the manager and for the players. But that's kind of what I've been most impressed with by Fabregas, is his ability to, the way that he's grown this season. And I think he's, if you look at where Fabregas was when the season started, together with Chivu to where they are now, I think those two are the most improved managers. Not just managers, but just most improved across the league, in terms of how it started and how they learned on the job, and the lessons they learned and how they applied it. It's made him a much better manager. It's made him a much better tactician. It's made him much more ready to be at a big club, which I have no doubt that he will be. I think this upcoming season with Como in the Champions League, and in the Serie A will be his last, because I think after that, he if he goes well in the Champions League, if he manages to mount a Scudetto challenge even, which I would not put past them at this point.
I wouldn't rule it out. And I have to blow my own horn here and remind everyone.
Yeah, you should.
This time last year, before the season started, I said, watch out for Como. It was in a show we did with Lex, the Canadian Italian journalist, and I did with her. I said, watch out for Como. My hot take for the season is, don't rule out Como for the Champions League. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't say and predict Como are going to get in the Champions League. I didn't say it directly, but I said...
No, you said they're a dark horse for it.
I said more than a dark horse. I said, watch out. I would not be surprised if Como get in the Champions League. And this is a team that, remember, they were fighting relegation last season for most of the season. They only just kind of saved themselves towards the end of the season. And the reason for that, and this is what everybody needs to learn in Italian football. If you remove the whole lack of Italians, which of course is a big problem for Italian football, huge problem. But if you look at the way that Fabregas coaches, develops players, the way that they scout players, what they are looking for, the attributes they're looking for in players, and the type of football that they play, this is, and the youth players, given youth players, being brave enough to play youth players. This is where Italian football needs to change. There's so much that we need to learn from Fabregas from that side of things, philosophically. Then, of course, the Italian side of things, obviously they've spent money. Obviously, they're a very, very rich club, but the way that they've spent the money, Juventus and Milan have spent a fortune, and they've blown it.
And whilst Como have a structure and they hire players that work in a system, in a group, together with a manager, like all that stuff. No, Como are so well run. It's like a little bit like, it's like they're like a Atalanta, but like an Atalanta that has been like crash course. Atalanta have built it over time. They've done it in a very short time, thanks to lots of money, but they've spent the money in the right way. So the
way that they've structured the club, the way they've used that money, their scouting department, their analytics department, some of it we take the piss out of, the way that they've hired people,
social media.
Hired people off social media. And don't get me wrong, probably 90% of those people that they've hired probably have been a disaster, I'm assuming. But the 10% of them, somebody's found and unearthed a gem. And the money that they probably spent to hire those people on probably peanuts, it's probably paid for it. You only have to unearth one gem. But this is the kind of what I'm saying is it's the forward thinking, modernizing, coming up with new ideas. They're ahead of the crowd. They're ahead. So not all of it will work. And also the biggest question is to come now is, now that they're in the Champions League, then organically, this is a club that doesn't make money organically. And FFP will hit clubs like that hard. Because if you're not generating your own income, then you have to basically do a Man City or PSG and just make out that you're selling millions.
Which is kind of what they're doing. But
well, I don't know. I don't know about that. But listen, the money that they'll have to make out that they're selling crazy numbers. So
no, they're going to have to use a sponsorship deal. They're going to have to use the Jaram Group's different sponsorship deals to do something.
And they don't have a stadium. The stadium isn't for the Champions League, so they'll have to probably play at another stadium.
They're actually rebuilding. Yeah, they're already started.
Will it be ready though? I don't know, but yeah,
I don't think so either. I wouldn't be surprised if they played their first Champions League games at the San Siro.
Or at Sassuolo, they reckon. They were saying it might be played at like Atalanta's games. Yeah, did. But yeah, I mean that. I think that we need to learn from, and Fabregas as well. I mean, he's such an impressive manager, and the way that he gets players playing for them. For him as well. I mean, his speeches, he's not just tactically a great manager.
No.
He's like his man management and as a motivator and the way that he gets
with young players, especially. It's really impressive to see how he manages to get inside the heads of young players and get them to kind of knows which pressure points to hit and get them to think the way that he wants them to think and work in the way that he wants them to work and kind of build a unit as well. It's really impressive. You got to, tip of the hat to that. It's very.
They're going to have to sign some Italians now, though, because you need to have it's part of your Champions League squad. You need to have so many homegrown players and Italian like national players. So, which Italians are Como going to sign? What do we reckon?
Well, Inacio, why not? Reggiani. Leone, I mean, seriously, with the Champions League money, why not?
Yeah, we'll see.
Palestra, does he go there?
Yeah, just quickly, Napoli, Atalanta, and Inter. Like Napoli, first of all, like Antonio, we knew it already. We discussed it. Antonio Conte leaves Napoli. It was quite some nice scenes there with a standing ovation, clapping the crowd, then an amusing press conferences with De Laurentiis as well.
It was like someone tweeted at me. It was like a family dinner at like a special occasion, like Christmas or Thanksgiving or Halloween or whatever you celebrate, Eid, whatever. And you deliberately go into subject matters that you don't agree with and you don't have agreement on, and then you still going on and you bang on about it. And then you have De Laurentiis' phone going off non-stop. Some idiot is calling him constantly. And he's like pressing no, and throwing his phone away to his secretary. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It was absolutely comedy. It was.
Yeah. Okay, and Atalanta. I mean, listen, they had nothing to play for, but it looks like Palladino will leave, and maybe Sarri and Giuntoli coming in. or Sarri for sure. I mean, what do we think
I
of
would
that?
love Atalanta to take Maurizio Sarri. I know he's been close in the past. For me, Sarri, this ticks every box because he's a hard worker, so he will resonate really well with the fan base and the identity of that club. The football he plays is straight up with the kind of football they like to play, and the pressure there is nowhere near like it is at Lazio or Juve or Napoli or Chelsea or anything like that. And there he'll come to an environment that will be united, and he's a strong man. And Atalanta evidently do well when they have strong men there, and don't do so well when they don't, like the whole package, when they don't have strong men there. So I'm really happy for Sarri. I hope he goes there. He deserves it. I think Atalanta will once again be amongst the top four or fight thereabouts with the Sarri in charge, because let's remember again, their budget doesn't hinge on Champions League football. They're so well run that they will be able to rebuild. They're going to sell players. That's what they do. It's Atalanta, but they're going to talk with Sarri if they bring him in Giuntoli. And Giuntoli is really good to identifying young talents. I mean, lest we forget what he did all those years at Napoli. When he was able to identify players that were under the radar and bring them to the coach that needed them. And I mean, that mercato that he did for Spalletti was just a masterclass. And I'm sure he'll be able to do that as well. No, I hope it happens. I so hope it happens for Atalanta, because we love Atalanta. We love. I think the way that you describe them, pound for pound, the best run club in the world, is very true. And we want the few success stories that we have in Italian football to continue. And look, they had a somewhat step down this year, but I mean, Gasperini leaving was always going to be a giant vacuum. It was always going to be problematic to replace someone like Gasperini. And I think they've landed on their feet. Seventh, they're finished seventh. They're still in Europe. And now if they get the appointment with Sarri right, if they bring in Giuntoli, I think they were talking about the relaunch of the Atalanta project. And I really hope it happens.
Yeah. Just quickly, Gazzetta have just put out a report now. We're recording this first thing on Monday morning, that Cardinale has made a decision to sack all the directors, every single one of them. Furlani,
he has to.
Tare, Moncada, Allegri expected to be fired, and Ibrahimovic is the only one that's a question mark.
Well, this is what I keep saying. I don't think Zlatan is not that easy to sack. Like, I think there's not just because of Zlatan. No, I mean Zlatan.
Well, just remains a shareholder, but not in an
operational
position. But we don't even know we don't even know if he is an operational position. No one knows. No one knows what his position is.
Well, exactly, and
okay, just in 30 seconds, Inter. Anything else you just want to say on Inter just to finish the season? Very quickly.
A fantastic season domestically. A season where lots of question marks going in, even if a lot of people want to pretend that they knew all along, which is bullshit. But I did not expect Inter to have this fantastic season, and I stand by that, and I'm really happy I was wrong. Chivu, what he has managed to do, they took a risk with Chivu, and the risk paid dividends. And Chivu has been able to, his biggest achievement was, like I said last week, or on the Q&A pod, I think it was, when I referenced the Lautaro interview, when he said last week that Gazzetta, he gave an interview to La Gazzetta saying that he was actually considering leaving Inter after last summer. But what Chivu managed to do, and that is his absolute biggest achievement, is the fact that he managed to unite a group where there were clear disagreements, clear rifts. He managed to heal that divide. He managed to unite the group. He managed to create an environment playing a football where young players were able to express themselves and develop and improve, and they managed to win a domestic double, which is historic. So for Inter, a brilliant season domestically, not so much in the Champions League, but that's fine. If you hire a young coach who's inexperienced, you have to give him time. Like with Fabregas, last year they were battling relegation. This year they're in the top four. With Chivu, it's the same thing there. There were huge question marks. It was a risk. It paid dividends. Now you have to keep building with him. The only thing I will say, and this is something I've raised a couple of months ago, and now everybody in Italy is talking about it, which I find hilarious, is that one thing that Chivu did really smart, in my opinion, is that he didn't change too much tactically. He did what Arne Slot did after he took over from Klopp. He made gradual changes in small bursts, because he knew that if he came in and revolutionized, the wheels would come off. Well, the following season, Slot got everything he wanted, and it was not a good season for Liverpool. The only warning sign I have with Chivu is that I hope that it's not a 2.0 Slot situation, but that instead he understands that no, he has to continue the gradual changes, and more importantly, the club back him, especially when it comes to defense and goalkeeper. That is the key. The midfield and attack looks fine. The wide players, Andy Diouf, oh my God, he has to play right wing back. Like, this is someone who was going to be flop of the season is becoming one of those things where he might be just a stroke of genius, a little bit of luck involved. But that was, they need to continue the Marotta mold of change and rejuvenation.
Let's move on. We have to move on. Right. So just before we talk about the relegation race, just quickly, the majority of Serie A teams will change coach this summer. So I'm going to run down how I read it in terms of who stays and who leaves in Serie A. So Inter, Chivu stays. Napoli, Conte leaves. Milan, Allegri leaves. Roma, Gasperini stays. Como, Fabregas stays. Juventus, Spalletti stays. Atalanta, Palladino leaves. Lazio, Sarri leaves. Bologna, Italiano probably leaves. Udinese, Runjaic stays. Sassuolo, Grosso probably leaves. Torino, D'Aversa possibly leaves. Parma, Cuesta stays. Fiorentina, Vanoli leaves. Genoa, De Rossi could stay, but it depends if he gets an offer. Cagliari, Pisacane stays unless he gets an offer. I think he's done a really good job, by the way. Lecce, Di Francesco stays. And Cremonese, Gianpaolo leaves. And then Hellas and Pisa, I actually don't know.
But Cremonese are relegated. Yeah. So just a quick comment on that. Runjaic, I'm not entirely sure that he stays. I think that with the vacancies in many of these clubs, I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves. As for Pisacane, I think he will most likely stay. I think he's done a great job. De Rossi, I hope he stays. I think he's done a great job. I want some stability for that career. I think he's a wonderful coach and a wonderful person, and I wish him just all the best. But yeah, I think there might be. Other than that, I agree with all of that. It'll be interesting to see. I think Di Francesco has to stay. What he did with Lecce was just brilliant.
Yeah, okay. Relegation race. So Cremonese 1, Como 4, Lecce 1, Genoa 0. So Lecce clinch safety. As you just mentioned there, Lamek Banda, who scored some crucial goals for them. I really like watching Lamek Banda. Lovely plays. He's like 4'1", but he's a fantastic player. He's So Lecce stay up.
I'm really happy for Lecce. I'm really happy for Di Francesco. I think this is the level of club that he should be at, and I'm glad that he got the redemption. I think Roma, bigger clubs are a step too big for him. I think at Lecce, he's in the right environment. He's good at developing youngsters. He's got a nice. They're a nice tight knit group. No, I'm happy for Lecce. I'm happy for Di Francesco. It's good for Italian football to have clubs from the south, not just being dominated by the north. And so no, I'm really, really thrilled. Di Francesco, again, they do the great escape, Lecce, and I'm really, really thrilled for them. Di Francesco, I hope, he's going to have the same work to repeat next season as well. But at least this time around, I think he has more credibility and there's more patience with him. Lecce are also a very well-run club. So congratulations to Lecce and to Di Francesco.
Yeah, and as for the promoted team, we should say Jamie Vardy, his season at Cremonese ends in disappointment for him. Promoted team. We were supposed to appear on the Jamie Vardy documentary.
No, well, we will because
they cut.
No. They haven't aired it yet. It's Channel 4 production apparently. That's going to be that's going to follow them like every week, like keeping up with the Kardashians kind of.
I thought
thing.
It was the Netflix one.
No, it's not. It's a Channel 4 one. Yeah.
Oh.
So we might.
Because I skimmed through the documentary and I couldn't see us, so I thought, I'm not going to bother.
No, I double checked it. and it's
when's that airing?
No idea, but it'll be in like over the next couple of weeks or something. I don't know.
Oh, it's as soon as that. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe even the fall. I don't know. Yeah.
So we're going to be on Channel 4, right? Okay. not Netflix, right? Okay.
Well, that isn't that where Europa League is shown on Channel 4 in the UK?
No, it's not. No,
not anymore. But he used to.
They don't show anything on free TV. No, in England.
But didn't he used to? Wasn't there a chant?
Some FA Cups and women's football.
Wasn't there a chant a couple of years ago? Thursday nights, Channel 4.
Yeah, Channel 5. Yeah.
Channel 5. Sorry.
Channel
5. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing on TV anymore, right? Anyway.
Yeah, but let's talk about the promoted teams.
Yeah, promoted teams are so Venezia come first in Serie B. Frosinone comes second, so they both are promoted, and it looks like Monza are going to join.
Yeah, they beat Catanzaro. Yeah, the first leg 2-0. They play on Friday, and it looks like Monza.
They won 2-0 away as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But looking at their team, they're full of kind of Serie A players.
Yeah.
You know, Pessina, Coutron, well, maybe not Coutron, Motta, Danny Motta, Birindelli,
Petagna's there.
Obiang, yeah. Petagna, the tank is still there, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the situation with that.
And another, if I'm not mistaken, that's another American ownership club that's in the Serie A.
Over half, and then also an American ownership group that we know well that are trying to buy Napoli as well.
Yeah, according to reports.
De Laurentiis confirmed it last night as well. So, yeah, we'll see how that one goes. The other results from the final day, just quickly: Fiorentina 1, Atalanta 1, Bologna 3, Inter 3, Lazio 2, Pisa 1, Parma 1, Sassuolo 0, and as I said before, Napoli beat Udinese 1-0. Did it finish 1-0? Napoli Udinese?
I think it was 2-0, wasn't it?
Was it 2-0? I can't even remember now. This show's gone on for too long. Anyway, right.
No, it was 1-0. It was 1-0. It was
1-0. Yeah, it was 1-0. Okay, right. Let's do our Serie A team of the season now. Now, I'm going to propose that we choose a 3-5-2, seeing as that everyone plays that stupid outdated system in Serie A. So we'll go with a 3-5-2. Right? I'll read out mine, and then you can read out yours after. Are you going with a 3-5-2 as well?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then we can do it like side by side by department. So start off with goalkeeper. I've written here Mike Maignan. Milan wouldn't be in the Champions League without him. Because I did this before. I did this before the final day. So, but I'm going to stick with Mike Maignan because I think he was the most consistent goalkeeper throughout the season.
I would have said that a couple of weeks ago, but I feel like in the last couple of weeks, and Milan's dropping in form, he's also kind of dropped in form. I'd probably go either Svilar or Carnesecchi, because I think Carnesecchi has been outstanding. Svilar has been outstanding. I think Vanja Milinkovic-Savic has been great. But no, I'm going to go with Carnesecchi. I love him.
Okay. My back three, I did have Pavlovic, but I've got rid of him now. So my back three are Gianluca Mancini. I mean, Roma had the best defense for most of the season, and he's also scored a lot of important goals. Mario Gila as well from Lazio. I think he's been outstanding, and I think he'll get a move to a big club. And I've picked Jacopo Ramon from Como as well. Como again, outstanding defensive numbers this season, and one of the Real Madrid crew.
I've gone with Mancini, I've gone with Ndika, and I've gone with Akanji. I don't care that Akanji can't play left or whoever plays whatever, but for me, Mancini and Ndika have to be there. They just have to be. I think they've been so good, so consistent, and I think Akanji as well has been very, very important for Inter. So I'm going to go with him.
Yeah, I've got some honourable mentions here. I had Akanji and Ndika and Pavlovic and
Muharemovic,
yeah.
I got Gila, and Gila is my honourable mention.
Yeah. Wing backs, I've got on the right. I've got Marco Palestra. I think he's got the second best dribbling numbers in Serie A. He's the most fouled player, I think, in Serie A, and so I think it has to be Palestra. I do have Salamakers as an honourable mention as well.
Yeah, I've got the same. For me, Palestra.
And then on the left, it's an easy choice. It's obviously
it's Di Marco, MVP. It's not much to say.
He's got 17 assists, 7 goals, most assists in the league. I do have honourable mentions, though, to Miranda and Aaron Martin, who are 2 fantastic crossers of the ball who have got created a lot of chances, assists this season. Right, midfield. So the 3-man centre midfield, I've got Hakan Çalhanoğlu for a redemption season. Scott McTominay, the guy scored 10 goals. You know, whatever you want to say, big game goals as well. And Nico Paz, obviously, 12 goals, 6 assists, joint most man of the matches in this league with Di Marco, most shots on goal, one of the most tackles, which I was shocked by, showing really what a complete player Nico Paz is.
I've got the same trio, but it's very close because I had Modric, Rabiot, and Zielinski as well, because I think the 3 of them have been really, really good. You talk about redemption season. Zielinski scored the goal of the season. I mean, that volley is just insane from that corner. He's been really, really good. He's a really, really good player.
Zielinski's a great shout. He's actually, I would maybe say, we don't have a category for this. Zielinski, the most underrated player of the season, I would say.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that later for the categories.
But yeah, I've got honourable mentions. I did have Modric in as well. I removed him when Milan got knocked out of the Champions League. And Rabiot, I thought, has had a good season. I think Locatelli has had a good season for Juventus as well. And Maxi Perrone for Como as well. I think it's been really good. Right, the front 2, I think is quite easy.
They pick themselves, don't they?
Lautaro has to be in there because he's the top scorer of Serie A, even though he's had a kind of a strange season in performance, but the numbers don't lie. And Daniel Malen, I mean, the second top scorer in Serie A, 14 goals since January. I mean, that's insane. That's absolutely insane.
No, I agree with you. There's really not much more to add to that. And the coach of the season is Christian Chivu, with honourable mentions for Gianpiero Gasperini.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're going to do that. We're just going to do that afterwards. So I'll talk about mine after. Right. So let's do the worst now. Serie A's 10 worst players of the seasons. I'll give you my 10, and then you can come in afterwards and tell me who would be your 10 if you want, or how you would change things. So I'm going to do a countdown from 10 to 1. 10 being, 1 being the worst, let's say. Okay? There's quite a lot of Juventus players and Milan players in this. So 10th, I've got Tun Koopmeiners. 0 goals, 0 assists. Just 60 million euros abysmally spent. 9th, Alessandro Buongiorno. I mean, what has happened to this guy? He really has. He turned from one of the best defenders in Serie A to really like a pub level defending we've seen from him this season. 8th, I've got Yunus Musa, second disastrous transfer in a row for him. I've got Davide Fratesi in 7th. Yes, he hasn't played too many games, but I didn't realise he's got 0 goals this season, which is pretty mad, really. Then in 6th, I've got Nicholas Fulkrug, 1 goal since January. Just awful. I mean, we're talking about signings. What on earth was that? 5th, I've got Jonathan David, who has been really, really horrible for Juventus. 4th place, I've got Alvaro Morata, 0 goals all season for a team that as good as Como. His season pretty much summed up by the game against Cagliari, where he walked off the pitch, tried to walk off the pitch because he was getting bullied by Yerry Mina. Third place, people have forgotten about this guy, Lorenzo Luca. Remember how bad he was and the money that was spent on him, 40 million? Then Luis Openda in second, 45 million euros, 24 games, 1 goal, 1 assist. And in first, it has to be Di Gregorio. I mean, this guy has put out, I think, the worst numbers maybe we've ever seen from a player in Serie A. The numbers themselves. 16 times this season that Di Gregorio has conceded the first shot on target in a game. And that is, without him, Juventus would have been in the Champions League.
I agree with most of those. The only thing is I would like to get Jan Sommer in there because he's been a meme. And Romelu Lukaku has been dreadful as well. So yeah, and of course Kevin De Bruyne, but I mean the injury kind of ruined his season. So
yeah, the injury saves De Bruyne, probably for me saves Lukaku as well.
Yeah.
As bad as it's comical as it's been when he's come back as well. I mean, he's been back almost since like February, isn't he? So, yeah, it's mad. Yeah, right. Let's do our Serie A awards. Then we've got a number of ones to pick here. So we'll go with. I'll read out the awards, and then you can come in and say who you're giving it to, and I'll give mine after that. Okay. Best goalkeeper.
I'm gonna stick with Carnesecchi.
Okay, Mike Maignan. Best defender.
Is he a defender though? I mean, he's a quinto or a quinta on the wide. So, but yeah, I know he's a defender kind of. So yeah, you got to go with Di Marco. I mean, MVP. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to put him in that category. So we'll go Di Marco. Best midfielder.
Nico Paz has been insane.
Yeah, agreed. Nico Paz for sure. Best forward.
Lautaro, top goal scorer, very important, fundamentally important for his team. If he hadn't been this injured, I think Inter would have done better in the Champions League, especially against Bodo Glimt.
I'm going to go Daniel Malen. I know he only played for half a season, but the impact that he's had, the number of goals that he's scored, 14, only 3 behind the eventual winner, Lautaro, is just unreal. Best transfer, though, I think is an easy one.
It has to be Malen. It has to be Malen. I'm sorry. The impact he's had in 6 months is insane.
Yeah, unbelievable. Best youngster.
Marco Palestra has to be.
Yeah, agreed. Marco Palestra, amazing season. Best coach.
Chivu. You can't give it to anybody else but Chivu. But also huge honorable mentions to Gasperini and Fabregas, who I think have done an amazing job.
I would also add an honorable mention to Fabio Grosso. I think he's done a really good job at Sassuolo, and Cuesta. I think Cuesta's done an outstanding job at Parma, given the level of the players that he's had. That is a relegation standard team, no doubt about it. So I think he's done really, really well. Not the kind of football, but the Arteta football, terror football, terrible. We need to come up with an Arteta Yahoo.
Terrible.
We need to come up with a terror name for Cuesta. Think of past dictators, and what name can we give Cuesta? That's one for the audience. Worst transfer.
There's quite a few that you.
Well, I'll give you mine. For me, it's an easy one. It's Luis Openda, 45 million euros, salary as well, 1 goal, 1 assist all season, and this guy is going to be unsellable. And I don't know, honestly, if someone told me this guy's a footballer, I've never seen him before, I wouldn't believe you.
I think that's fair. Just one thing, Marco Palestra for best youngster. Francesco Esposito, I'm sorry, but 10 goals in all comps in his first season at the highest level, scoring in every tournament, including for the national team. You know, we want youngsters to do well. We want youngsters to be given a chance. It's so nice to see that Palestra and Pio Esposito have succeeded.
Yeah, for sure. Worst coach?
Igor Tudor. Dreadful. absolutely dreadful. He manages to be dreadful in the Serie A, and then whatever that appointment at Spurs was.
Forgot about Spurs.
Igor Tudor.
Yeah, Ivan Juric for me. What he did at Atalanta was a horror show. MVP.
Di Marco. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but part of me wants to say Daniel Malen. Part of me wants to say give it to the player, the first player ever to win MVP based on the second half of the season. That's how transformative that Malen has been for Roma. Serie AS of the season, Nima. There's so many.
The FIGC for everything that they have done. The Lega Serie, from the way that they run, the way that they control, the way that the Serie A has been run, and they are. Let's remember, they're not like the Premier League that have left or are a separate entity. No, not separate entity, but like kind of their own thing. They're under the FIGC. The Serie A has been dreadful. The referees have been dreadful. The Italian national team is in dire straits. FIGC, 4 letters. They are the Serie A of the season for everything that we've discussed. That from the marketing, the way that they market the league, the way that they market Italian football, the complete delusion and lack of self-awareness of where they are, comparing Coppa Italia to the Champions League. I mean, everything. FIGC, a clown show.
FIGC, F off. That's what
every single person involved with them.
Yeah, and I think that we can extend that to Milan's leadership, Juventus's leadership, and I have to add Juventus Creator Lab as well, because it's been a theme of this season.
That's been your thing.
That's been a theme. Yeah. I'm glad though that also that once that the video that I did on it last week actually went a little bit viral, and all the comments, 95% of the comments, people are actually like agreeing, which is good.
I'm surprised you read the comments. I don't read my own mentions, much less the comments we get on.
Well, no, because I read it because I'm interested. I believe that I want to see this cultural change, and when I'm glad that people are actually realizing that this kind of shit can't continue. So it is good to see that people are on the same page. You get the odd one saying, "Oh yeah, this is modern football," blah blah blah. But anyway, right. How long has this segment been? I just want to make sure have we gone over 10 minutes on the
for sure.
Okay, brilliant. Let's talk about Italy now, just before we finish off with Baggio, Premface, and Serie AS of the week, because Italy have obviously, unfortunately, we're not in the World Cup, and as we discussed on the Q&A last week, Iran are now, it looks like 99% going to be in the World Cup now, it seems. They've also sorted out, haven't they, Nim? I saw you tweeting about this. They've sorted out that their training base is going to be in Mexico, near the border.
In Tijuana. Yeah, in Tijuana. And it's actually closer to LA than Tucson, Arizona was. And so they only need multi-entry visas. And they're not going to issue those visas until Iran's final World Cup squad has been named on June the 1st. And
so that solves the visa problem, basically, of not getting visas.
To a certain extent, yeah.
Because they need a different visa now, is that right? They need a different type of visa, which is easier to grant.
Yeah, because they're not going to live in the US for a while. They're just going to be. They're just going to come in with a bus or a plane. It's to play the games and then go to their training camp again. And there's even talk now of Sardar Azmoun, who was initially struck out, that that they've said that he knows what he has to do. He has to apologize publicly for his disgusting behavior on social media during the war, and then he'll probably be called up to the squad as well. Could happen. That's the latest development.
Okay, that's it. Surprised by that after what he said, but yeah, interesting. Okay.
But if he apologizes for his behavior, which is unlike him, because he never apologizes for anything, he's never wrong. So why should he apologize? But if he does that, and
I saw his kind of explanation the other day, which was
pathetic. It was absolutely pathetic. But there's been developments since then
that
suggest that he could, that he needs to back off.
Okay, well, let's talk about Italy. Unfortunately, we aren't going to be in the World Cup, but Italy's interim coach, Silvio Baldini, who's, of course, the under-21 manager, who will be in charge of the two friendlies that Italy have in June against Greece and Luxembourg. And he is going to be announcing his squad for that. Could be anytime now. And it seems that he is going to be calling a very, very youthful squad, which may include an entire under 23 or under 21 squad, potentially, or a majority of those. That seems to be the case anyway. Definitely a majority. We'll see if they're all under the age of 23, 21. So based on what is coming out of Italy, including Sky, I believe, this was Football Italia put out a story on this. It seems that Borussia Dortmund's wonder kid, Samuele Inacio, as well as Lazio's Eduardo Motta, but it's the Inacio one which I'm most interested in. It seems like they're both going to be called up. Gianluigi Donnarumma might be the one exception in terms of as the captain, he will lead out the team. And the rest of them will be, it seems, under 23, under 21 players mostly. And those that will certainly be called up, it seems, is Michael Kayode,
good,
Bartizaghi, Onis Dahanor, Cher Undur, Cesare Casade, Luca Coglioscio, Marco Palestra, Nicolo Pizzilli, and Francesco Pio Esposito. Plus, as I said, Eduardo Motta, if he's fit, because I think he's been injured, hasn't he, for the last couple of games of the season. And also the most interesting one, the one that I'm very happy about, which is Samuele Inacio, who is kind of our most exciting young talent. And he'd broken into the Borussia Dortmund team towards the end of the season, scored as well. And there was some concern because he's the son of Inacio Pia, who's a former Brazilian Atalanta attacker in the early 2000s. And
I remember him.
His mother's Italian. He was born in Italy with Samuele Inacio, but his dad is Brazilian. And there was this concern that he might choose Brazil, that his idol is Neymar, that Brazil have actually already started trying to talk to him and convince him. So there was concerns, and we were both crying. I was crying out, I was saying, look, for this squad, call him up. So we'll see if he actually gets a call up. I hope he does, and that this kind of helps him make his decision to choose.
Well, his dad did do an interview saying he feels Italian and he wants to play for Italy and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, his dad, according to an interview with Tutto Sports, hopefully this is a genuine interview. He feels 100% Italian. He dreams of winning the World Cup with the Azzurri. He has never seen Italy play in a World Cup finals. We're all very sad about that. It's mad, isn't it? Your brightest young talent's never seen Italy play in the World Cup. Mad. So yeah, that is great news if true, and I hope he gets called up. What do you make of? Yeah, what do you make?
Look, I saw some people not be too happy about if this is true, that it's a gross overreaction and whatnot. But I think it's the right thing to do because these are meaningless games. You brought on the under-21 coach, so why not just let the next generation get us a sneak peek of the next generation and see how well they will do? And because these are meaningless games, and you have Donnarumma as the captain, which is the bridge and continuity. You have Francesco Pio Esposito, who's been there as well. Bartesaghi's been mentioned. I think this is fine. I'm okay with this until the elections are held. Malago is elected, and he appoints Allegri, inshallah. Then and
none of these players ever play again.
Exactly. And they never see the pitch again. And you have something to be angry about. Can't have you too happy, you know.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm so happy at the moment, aren't I? I'm jumping up for joy. I'm so happy.
Yeah. jumping out your seat.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. Living the dream.
This has been such an amazing season of football. Like, oh my God, I can't wait for the World Cup. I just, going to watch every single game. Yeah, I mean, look, from seriously though, from these players that have been mentioned as kind of like the core youngsters, Kayode, Batizaghi, Ahano, Ndur, Casadei, Kolyosha, Palestra, Pizzilli, Pio Esposito, which ones do you think should realistically, be part of the setup when we're talking about September?
Inacio, Pio Esposito, Palestra, Ahanor, Kayode, of course. I love Kayode.
Ahanor's has had a difficult second half of the season.
Yes, but I mean, I think he should be.
He's 17. He's 17 years old.
And also, I think he should be in the discussion. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want these guys to be in the discussion. I like Sharon Dor as well. Casadei, I don't think he's had enough to be like definitely in the squad.
I'm not convinced about this as a guy that's going to become the level. And Dor's one of those that, let's see. He's got some important physical attributes. Been scoring quite a few goals.
But the ones I mentioned are the ones that I want to be in the discussion, or at least in the minimum in the squad. And because I think Kayode and Esposito, Palestra, like these guys.
I think that, listen, we've got Nations League now for a year, right? When does the World Cup qualifies? Or the
you mean Euros?
Euro qualifies.
I'm not sure because they're going to redo it, and we're going to have to talk about that because I had lots of listeners and people tagging us on social media saying they listened to what you guys wanted to do because they're going to change.
Yes, they are. I think that's been confirmed, or it's about to be confirmed.
But we don't know the details of that yet, so I don't want to talk about it until we know the full details. But they're going to change it, and they're going to
be like the Champions League. Yeah, it's going to be like the Champions League.
Similar, not exactly, but similar. And I like, and devil's in the details, so I want to wait and see what we do. But I'm happy
my point is this: right. So here, I've just checked it out. So the qualifiers for Euro 28 start on the 25th of March, 2027. So that's 10 months away. So we've got 10 months now to play the youngsters. The Nations League doesn't matter. Okay, you can say rankings. The Nations League doesn't matter. Play the youngsters. Then, when it comes to March 2027, then from those 6 months or so of playing the youngsters, you see which ones are ready, which ones do you want to maybe not quite ready, but you want them in the squad still. Which ones are ready to start? Which ones are ready to be subs? And do you know what I mean? There's no point in playing.
Which is why I wanted to, like, all jokes aside, I think there's no chance Allegri is going to be appointed. I think Mancini is the one that I'm looking.
Mancini's the pole position that everybody's saying.
And I understand that because he's done this before with youngsters. You can criticize Mancini for many things, but you cannot criticize him for not giving youngsters a chance, for not launching the careers of players, both at club and national team level. And I think he's if this is the project they want to go, then I do think Mancini is the right guy. The only question mark, of course, is reheated minestrone. It doesn't work usually.
For me, I agree. For me, philosophically, he's the right manager. He's the right manager in terms of what we need doing in Italian football. And I'm not just talking about the manager. I'm talking about everything that needs doing in Italian football. He's the right manager philosophically because he has the right vision of what needs to be done. Playing youngsters, trying to develop them, having a sort of a positive style of play, trying to be the bosses on the pitch, and also realizing the structural changes that need to be made to Italian football as a whole. I mean, I think that he was fighting a one-man crusade.
He was
towards the end, and I think he got really pissed off and fed up by the end, and that played a part, I think, in the way that the relationship ended a little bit. So he was fed up by the end. He was trying desperately. I mean, he was calling up players that clearly weren't ready. He was calling.
Someone's knocking on my door. 1 second. You continue.
Yeah, no. So what I was saying is that Mancini was calling up players like Gnonto when he was playing. What league was he playing in? He was looking desperately abroad. Retegui. He was trying to find solutions. And he was calling up. He was unearthing players. He was almost acting like a transfer director. for the international team because he was so desperate and he was trying to make changes, and he was obviously saw that he was getting no help. So obviously he can't do it alone, and we hope that if Malago comes in, that they will make these other structural changes. And I've said earlier on in the show about all these figures that are incompetent and holding on to power who need to go, and that probably won't happen because this is Italy. But I think Mancini is the right man. The question mark is, has he still got it on the pitch? Forget about the reheated Minestrone, which is a fact. Which is a fact. It doesn't always work very well. It hasn't worked. Generally, doesn't work that well often. But for me, it's more like, is he still the Mancini of 5 years ago when he won the Euros, or is he maybe a bit past his best? I've sat here and said that Allegri is finished. He's not the manager he was 10 years ago. Well, I'm not saying Mancini's finished. I don't believe that. But I'm saying, is Mancini still at the levels that he was 5 years ago? I don't think he's that old. I think he's 61. Yeah. I think he is. Mancini, 62. He's going to be 62 this year. So, there's those question marks. Is his football started to become a bit predictable and stale and tired?
But one thing about him, though, that we have to say is that he has renewed himself and he has rejuvenated himself, and he's, in the sense he's done it before. I mean, the Mancini that was at Inter is not the Mancini that was at Manchester City, and it wasn't the same Mancini at Italy. Has he updated? He's done it before. So I think the next appointment, if philosophically I agree, like that's why I'm saying Mancini, but the question mark is, has he renewed, and has he renewed enough, and is he modern enough? And that's the big question. And
his stock is a bit low. His stock's a bit low, isn't it?
Yeah, but he has kind of he
beat Inzaghi though, didn't he? Didn't he beat Inzaghi in the in the Champions League, in their Asian Champions League?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't follow. I know they lost on penalties after Benzema missed a penalty, but I don't know who it was against, or I just read something in that. But I think philosophically, like you said, he's done it before. This is what Malaga needs to do. They need to have a proper hiring process. They need to have proper talks. They need to talk vision, and they need to find the right person. I don't care if it's not a big man. I don't care if it's not a big name. If they decide to continue with Baldini, even, like, do you know what I mean? I just want them to have someone with a vision for 4 to 6 years, and allow that person to build and grow, and be able to get the best players from the current crop who aren't finished, and bring the best crop of youngsters in, and make that mix.
Yeah, I mean, Mancini tried to become almost like a Alex Ferguson figure with Italy towards the end. And maybe that's kind of the way they go. Maybe they give full power to Mancini and they say, look, you've got the vision. Tell us what your vision is, and then we'll try and put that in place. And I'm actually
give Mancini the wheel. Yeah,
I'm absolutely fine with that. And if it means that we have a bad 2 years, but it means that the manager that follows Mancini afterwards comes into a strong. I'm fine with that. But what we can't do is we can't just keep doing this same, nothing changes, and it's just the same. We can't do that anymore.
No,
we can't.
Enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Basta.
Right. Basta. Baggio, Premface, and Serie AS of the week. So Baggio, I mean, we have to say the Champions League qualifies Roma and Como. We have to say them for sure.
Lecce for sure, for avoiding the drop. I mean, Jesus, that's they did is unbelievable. And also, I've got non-football but kind of football related one. Roma fan Giovanotti and Genoa fan Alfa. They released the anthem of the summer, a fantastic song. Called Bonvento, which is just beautiful, amazing song, as always with those two. Brilliant music, brilliant lyrics. It's just, God bless them both. So for me, I'll find Giovanotti and their new single, Bonvento. Check it out if you haven't already.
Okay. Premface of the week, Nima.
I've not followed too much. There's not been that many Premdemics because it's been going really. I've not seen anything. Has Jamie Carragher spoken? I mean, I'm sure he has.
Yeah. I mean, it was the final weekend of the Premier League season. I was watching a bit of the Tottenham game and the West Ham game, and Tottenham managed to save themselves. And there was an amusing De Zerbi and Vicario bust up with Seamus Coleman and David Moyes, which was quite amusing. Vicario came up with a bit of a dick, I thought. Quite a big dick, actually, in that. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure there must have been some stupid things that were said. I mean, there was also can we call Thomas Tuchel a bit of a Premface for some of his selections for the World Cup squad? What did you think of that? I'm quite surprised by some of his
Me too.
decisions.
Me too. I'm very surprised by some decisions. I understand not pulling. I mean, he was always going to leave one of the number 10s out, wasn't he? Because they don't work. But then he left all of them out.
No Foden, no Foden, and no Palmer. I mean, Foden's had a bad season, to be fair. Palmer has been injured a lot. Cole Palmer. Yeah, I'm surprised both of them are out.
Yeah, I thought one of them.
Yeah.
Ivan Toney. I mean,
he's taken three number 9s as well. But even Tony's a strange one for sure. Maybe he's taken him for penalties because he's the best penalty taker in world football. I don't know. Could be. But I just look at that England squad and just think it doesn't terrify you as much as it maybe should have done. You know,
I agree.
Some of the choices. Yeah.
But then again, if he can get it to work as a team and a unit, then why not? I mean, I was surprised Harry Maguire wasn't called up. I thought he was definitely going to be in the squad, but I'm not crying over it like he did on social media.
That was funny.
Yeah. No, I mean it's an interesting one. I mean, it's you know,
some of the players, Jordan Henderson. I mean,
I don't understand.
How does this guy keeps getting into bloody England squads? What has he got on his hard drive? Like, what has he got? Like, what? Like, he's like Mossad or you know.
I was literally about to say
finals, isn't it?
I was literally about to say, like, which intelligence service is he connected to?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
He's 36 years old. Like, I can't believe this guy keeps getting. It's mad. It's absolutely mad. And Jed Spence, anybody that watched him in Italy, like,
that is mental.
I mean, I think he's done all right at Tottenham, but honestly, I mean, yeah. So there's some strange picks. There for sure. But obviously, they still have so much quality, no doubt about that. Serie AS of the week. I've got. I'm going to get the serious one out of the way first. The Juventus and we don't actually know the exact story, but it's ultras, so they haven't got to be. The Torino ultras, Juventus ultras, and the police apparently handled it really badly as well. Apparently, I think it actually came from there. I don't know how bad the ultra is. Obviously, we hope he's okay, but he went to hospital in a very serious condition. That led to the game being delayed by an hour, but then the ultras were trying to demand that the game wasn't played. Anything to do with ultras, honestly. I mean, it's you know, we don't want to repeat ourselves at all, but it's just, again, another example of what needs to change in the Italian culture, which is holding Italian football back. So there's that. That's the serious side of things out of the way. Then, I mean, this was also quite serious. Did you see Ciro Polito's son in the Serie B playoff semi-final in Palermo?
In Palermo, the fist fight that ensued
against Catanzaro. Did you see the lady that threw a handbag? But she went to hit him with a handbag, but she lost control of it and then it flew out of her hand. That was the best bit.
I'm sorry for laughing. It's not funny when people fight, but with a handbag sent me over the edge. I don't know why I find that so funny. It was just insane.
Yeah. What was insane is that she let go of it. Like,
she threw it.
She threw the handbag at him.
Oh, God.
Oh, amazing.
That can hurt, you know, because women have lots of they've got so many things in their handbags. Like, you know, you keep the phones and, I don't know, perfumes and makeup.
That was a designer handbag.
Yeah, but still, it bloody hurts to get hit in the face with a handbag. I mean, come on. Like, that was, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And just finally, and this sums up the social media in Italian football, by whether it's by the clubs, by the league, by the FIGC, by whoever. So the official Serie A page in North America, they were congratulating Como straight after they qualified for the Champions League, and they were basically saying what we said about how they were in Serie B in 2 years ago, and they wrote on their social media post that Como were in the Championship, promoted from the Championship 2023-24, qualified for the Champions League 25-26. So there you go. Como were in the English Championship in 2 years ago.
Oh dear. Yeah, I don't know what to say anymore. Like
these are the guys promoting. These are the guys promoting Italian football.
Yeah, they're doing a damned good job. Damned fine job. No,
I don't know why, but when you say fine, you sound just like the one from Laurel and Hardy. The fat one. Another fine mess you put us into.
Another fine mess you put us into.
They're doing a damn fine job. I don't know why. It's the way you say it. You sound like him. Right. Okay. Well, that's it. Extra.
That's
long
it.
show.
That's the season. That's the Serie A season we've done. It's been an interesting season. It's been fun. It's the season where
it's been a tough season. Let's not lie.
The first time we actually but like for us, we actually did. We started doing videos every week. We started social media, like stuff like that. It's been a big season for us. I want to thank everybody who's been listening. I mean, being number one in 9 countries on Apple Podcasts is insane. Given that 70% of our listeners don't even come from those countries. Our growth on YouTube, to everybody listening, sharing, or on social media. I mean, we've never had these numbers, and we're eternally grateful to everybody. So no, it's been a great season for us. It's been a tough season for Italian football, but yeah. So upwards and onwards, I suppose. For those of you listening, we will be continuing over the summer. We'll be doing the weekly Q&A pod. And we'll also be doing Mercato deep dives, club specific, and also expert ones. Might get an interview here or there as well. So we've got some stuff in the works that we haven't decided or finalized yet, but we'll definitely be doing at least 1 or 2 pods a week, as always. So make sure to follow us for the off season, as they call it in America.
Yeah. I mean, we will be doing the transfer market, and we will find content for you during the summer.
No, we will be covering it because
there'll be lots going on.
The Mercatos.
Italy might be at the World Cup as well, but we'll cover Italy. So we'll try and cover some of Italy's stuff in the youth tournaments. There is an under 17 Euros starting, I think, this week, and there's the under 19 Euros taking place at the end of the month as well. Obviously, the Italy national team are playing 2 games. That's always very, very popular. We'll cover those games. We'll cover all the stuff with who becomes the new president, who becomes the new manager of the international team, the changes that they hopefully make. So there'll be lots of stuff with Italy is the stuff that you guys will really love, and that's why we're devastated Italy not in the World Cup, because this channel definitely would have.
Yeah, and Carlo had
we had so much stuff we wanted to do, and we would have done. You guys
had so many great things planned. So yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys.
Well, thank you for this season. Thank you for this season. Grazie a tutti.
Thank you, Nima. Thank you, Nima, for this season as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you to Ned, our producer, and Alex, our social media guy, and everybody who's been listening. And
Alex is a Milan fan, so he's devastated today. Yeah. And Ned is a Fiorentina fan who had a disastrous season. So between us, only Nima's the only one that's had a kind of passable season. But even he's not really that happy either, I don't think. He's kind of like, it's just the Serie A. He's like me. He's like me when Juventus were in their 9 in a row streak, and it was just easy for Juventus. Juventus were winning, but it was just like, well, Italy is shit. We're shit in Europe, it's just like
it's like the European nights and the international football is where my passion is. I mean, very simply put. I mean, I'm always going to love the Serie A. I'll always love the Serie A, and especially the relegation battle, and there's so many storylines in it and stuff like that. But it's like we didn't have a title race this season. That was not very fun.
I wish we have a title race. It's always fun.
We did have a top 4 race. The top 4 race was insane, and that was good.
Yeah.
That kept everybody kind of. That was important, because if that didn't happen, it would have been really tough for us
Yeah.
the last 2 months of the season to keep this show going. And we have been demotivated. I mean, I've been very demotivated since the World Cup. I'm not going to lie. I've been really demotivated. But, we just let's just hope that the better times are ahead for Italy. That's the beauty about football. There's always another day. There's always another season. This is a dark day. As we said, probably the darkest day collectively for Juventus and Milan in modern football history since the Champions League. But there's always next season. There's always a new chapter. So that's just what you got to do. That is the beauty about football. You can reset. You can reset. We hope that Italian football does a full reset. We hope that they press the reset button on the computer and they go back to the good old days. But not a Norwegian.
Not a Norwegian reset, because in Sweden, Norwegian reset is when you just pull the plug, but an actual reset.
Yeah.
But and also to our patrons, please do send in your questions by Tuesday this week, so that we have a pod by Thursday. And keep them coming. We love your questions.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Have a great week. Ciao, ciao.
Hey everybody, if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to like, share and comment below. Let us know your thoughts. Also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you never miss any of our content when we upload it. It really helps us grow and bring you more stories like this. And also don't forget to follow us on our social media for extra clips, updates, behind the scenes content. We have the same handle everywhere. It's @EtherFootPod. The link is in the description below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.